Greetings viewers, welcome to another exciting episode of Guest on Campus. This is your host Fatima Babar. Today we have a very special guest in the studio with us. We have the privilege of hosting Dr. James Appleton. Let me give you his brief introduction. Dr. Appleton, President Emeritus of the University of Redlands, brings over 2 decades of leadership experience. Previously at the University of Southern California, he served as Vice President and faculty member. A Wheaton College graduate with a Ph.D. from Michigan State University, Dr. Appleton is a seasoned mentor for new college presidents and chaired the VASC Senior College and University Commission. How are you doing today, Dr. Appleton?
I'm glad to be here. This will be a good time.
I hope so as well. So moving on to our first question. Tell your audience about your experience in Pakistan, especially Lahore, which is culturally and historically a very important metropolis.
I can say some things. It, I think, was 2004 or early in the 2000 when Forman was denationalized, and the first president that came thereafter was Dr. Peter Armacost.
Right.
And I had known him in U.S. many, many times. We went to conferences together, and there's a very important piece that his father was actually the president of the University of Redlands some time before me, so he knew. So we had good acquaintances, and he wanted another educator from U.S. to be a part of the development at that time. And so he came and saw me, and he was very dynamic and a wonderful president for here then after his experiences in the United States. And I had no choice. He was so persuasive. And so I decided yes. And I came here, never visiting this country. I've traveled the world a bit, but not in this area. And I got very excited about the potential. And so that brought me in. And then there's a group in the United States, the Friends of Forman Christian College.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I joined that, and I came here and helped Peter a couple of times. And then I was asked to be on the group that searched for the next president.
Right.
And now with the president here, the same occurred.
That's amazing.
So I think this is my 5th time here also. And what a good place. I guess that's what I want to say.
We're so glad you liked it. Can you talk a little about the differences in the academic environment in the US and Pakistan?
Yeah, I think, and I guess in some ways, I almost think I ought to talk about the similarities first, because most of the institutions, whether US or Pakistan, that I've participated in or been a part of or visited, there always is a deep love in the administration and the faculty to do the best. And I think that's US, but it's here too. I see it on the campus, I feel it, I hear it. And so now in differences, sometimes the curriculum in the schools here gets a little more prescriptive,
right.
A little more, maybe not quite as much freedom in moving in one direction or another. But in some ways, I don't want to think that's so contrasting that we can't work together. In fact, I think in terms of accreditation of colleges and universities, U.S. has its standard, Pakistan has HEC. Yes, I think that's the letters for it. That has its own accreditation standards. I have a theory about that. If we look 20 years, 30 years ahead, I think there might be an international standard of accreditation. And that means particularly if Forman is one of the early adopters of accreditation from U.S., then it's easier to be a part of that international piece. So whatever the differences are, I think we have to work together to build the quality for the students of this world, really.
Of course. Since you're working with Forman for the accreditation, tell our audience what NETCHI actually is.
In this country is certainly driven by the volunteers from other associations, but it's a little more not controlled, but influenced by governmental overlay. In the United States, there is a Department of Education in the national government, but they delegate accreditation in U.S. to higher education itself. And then there are the regions. NETCHI is one of the 6 in U.S. WASC is one of the 6, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. And the leaders of Nietzsche, we'll talk about Nietzsche rather than WASC, would have some educators, presidents, faculty, administrators, who will volunteer to assist and go on teams. Then those teams come, like the one that will come in March here. Right. They're volunteers. They're very experienced educators, and they will come to review, and then will pass back to the leadership of Nietzsche their recommendation for Forman Christian College, and then we'll see what happens to it. But so it's a body of volunteers, but authorized by the federal government in U.S. In some ways it's the same in Pakistan, but I would have to say that the government is more involved in the details of the accreditation than the U.S. Department of Education is in U.S.
Right. So, sir, coming back to Forman, in your opinion, how do you think NECI accreditation will help Forman grow as an academic institution?
I think it's really important. And it's good that already Forman has obviously Pakistani accreditation. It would not be kind of foolish if it started in U.S., right? But the accreditation is here from the country itself. I think a lot of things. I think there is a standard in U.S. accreditation. I think so when any other community, any other country finds that Forman is accredited by U.S., I think there's some prestige to that. I wouldn't want to make too much of it, or it sounds too American. And I'm serious. I don't mean to be funny about that. But there are serious other advantages. I think it means that if a student is interested in going to other countries, U.S., England, Japan, other places for graduate school, already students from Forman get graduate certifications, and they get Fulbrights, and you're not so isolated for sure that you wouldn't have some of that happening. But with accreditation, it would be very easy, or much easier at least, to transfer to U.S. and transfer to other places, because now they're already seeing the institution has a similar quality of education, and then evaluate the student. But if the similarity is not there in terms of accreditation on what that institution is, then it's more difficult to make the transfer. So for graduate studies, for transferability, I think eventually exchange of faculty back and forth. So it's maybe a faculty member at the University of Redlands or at Stanford or on the East Coast, Harvard or other places might say, I'd love to come to Pakistan for a year and teach as a guest at Forman. So I think exchanges at the student level, exchanges at the faculty level. I think it will be easier to get research grants once the institution is accredited by Nietzsche, which is really accreditation by U.S. Department of Education. So I think those are included. I'm sure there are others that I'm not thinking of, but I think it's an important move.
Right, because we do have a lot of students that do transfer to the U.S. So similarly, talking about Pakistan being a multilingual and a multicultural and a diverse country, how is the NECI accreditation helpful to Pakistan in that sense?
Well, I've been on the campus now again for a week.
Yeah.
The diversity there is exciting. It's not anything but exciting. And when I sit in a student group, and I know there are Muslim students there, and Sikh students there, and Christian students there, and students that have no sense of religiosity about them as well, maybe only imposed by parents. Or I see students thinking not so broadly maybe or so vocal, but they're thinking about what's happening, what's going to happen when they're the leaders. And they're sitting with this diversity already, which is a tremendous strength of Forman Christian College. Does not happen in every school, I think. That's really like my school as well. So the similarities, I think, in being concerned about the value of diversity, and the diversity is not necessarily something to be concerned about in the sense of, oh my gosh, it's awful, but to celebrate it because the world needs it. The world needs us to learn from each other. The world needs us to work together. And I see it on the Forman campus. It's certainly on mine. I see it where my children and my grandchildren have gone to schools. I believe to pay a lot of attention to diversity and almost using diversity, not in a using bad sense, using diversity to ensure the quality of an educational environment. I mean, if it's only, and I'll use USC, if it's only a Catholic student and going to schools with Catholic students or Protestants or there's something missing. And I think U.S. is very concerned about developing cultural and religious diversity within its campuses. I see that at Forman Christian College, and the value thereof to love
with love serve one
to serve one another. Almost blew it there.
Yeah.
Is the essence of that.
Yes, exactly.
In my opinion, so there are differences. There are serious racial issues in the United States. They come out in different forms than they come out sometimes in Pakistan. Frankly, the generations to follow me, and maybe even you, have to see that it's in the forefront of making sure that it's understandable that this is a diverse world.
Yes.
We're not going back into our clusters again as much as might have happened in some years in the past, I hope.
Yeah, that's right. So, sir, what are Forman's strengths that you think might contribute towards its niche accreditation process?
I think there is a quality of faculty that I appreciate. I think it also has the opportunity to grow as the institution grows to employ faculty that will match and even exceed the values that are. But I would say the quality and commitment of the faculty. I've met with several in the week that I've been here, and I'm very impressed with the commitment of the faculty to the students and to the learning process. So I think faculty is a commitment. I think the campus, which is already terrific, has even more potential. I'm not happy necessarily to see the big new buildings that are student related, not yet with the equipment needed and the food service needed. I think that has to come, but that's there, a great potential. So the campus itself, I think, is inviting. The diversity we talked about just a minute ago. I had a Muslim faculty member yesterday tell me that the reason she was there is because she respected the school, but she wanted the diversity so that in her class there would be Muslims and Christians and whomever students that would be mingling and forcing themselves to learn from each other in this society. So I think the diversity is a strength. I think the leadership is strong, and it's very much both leadership from U.S. because of the support from the U.S., but also includes very, very strong Pakistani leadership and educators as well. So I think that's a strength. A lot of good things that I'm seeing, and the will to move on accreditation. This is a lot of work, huge amount of work. So I think that's a strength, really, incidentally. And I think because of these strengths, I can't be the person to say whether it'll happen or not because I have no influence in it other than to help them be prepared for this. I think there's a really good chance that within a period of years of somewhere between 2 and 6 or so, that I think Forman Christian College can get U.S. accreditation.
That's amazing, sir. So with this, we come to the conclusion of this enlightening episode with Dr. James Appleton. We all found immense inspiration, I'm sure, leaving us with new perspectives to ponder over. A heartfelt thank you to you, sir, for gracing us with your wisdom and experiences. Thank you for being a part of our campus conversations. This is your host, Fatima Babar, signing off until next time. Goodbye.